Hello and welcome to Trad Jazz Today. Dan Zeilinger has been a world-traveling trad jazz musician for the past 40 years. Some of his most memorable performances were on the lawn of the Edinburgh Castle, at the Imperial Palace in Japan, as well as TV shows and commercials around the world. Dan has met many people during his career and has spent many hours on and off stage with these musicians, talking about jazz, life, and more. Some are touring musicians, some are theme park warriors, and some are casual musicians who play on weekends with their friends. They all have stories worthy of a movie script, and through these interviews, Dan will be sharing them with you. Now, Dan Zeilinger.
Hi there, this is Dan Zeilinger with Trad Jazz Today. My next guest is somebody who we have been Dixie adjacent for a very long time. We've got many friends. And a few people who don't like us, but in common. But here he is, banjo player, mandolin, ukulele, probably sitar. I haven't asked him about that one yet. And most likely anything that's strung, Mr. Paul Scavarda. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Dan.
Is that a pretty accurate description?
Yeah, my dad would refer to me as a butterfly. I was very curious. I even at one time played the tuba poorly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I took tuba lessons from Lance McLean.
Lance is a banjo player.
Yes, he had a little E flat tuba, and he would play it at Shakey's, and he gave me a handful of lessons, and it got me started.
I was the last tuba player in the Hot Frogs, and Lance was still in at the time. So that's how I know Lance. But,
I used to see that band when I was, before I even started doing this, I used to see the trad. I didn't realize until moving from California, it's a real organic California thing.
Yeah, it seems to have pockets in the nation, actually, throughout the country.
Yeah. Yes.
But let's start with you. Where were you born?
I was born in Los Angeles, and I grew up in West Covina.
So you were actually born in the city of Los Angeles?
In a hospital, yeah.
Well, that's good. Often people who are born in the suburbs will just say I was born in LA. But if you were actually born in Los Angeles proper, that makes you pretty rare, actually.
Yeah, I could have said I was squeezed out of a bar rag, but I didn't do that. That's been used.
Well, that's true. And you went to you moved to West Covina. Now, did you go to high school there?
Yes.
Were you at all in music at all through high school?
Yeah, actually, I spent more time in the Dixieland University at Shakey.
So, as a participant or as a fan?
I actually first as a fan and then as a participant. I had a Shakey's gig when I was 15 or 16.
What was the first instrument you played?
First instrument I played would have been ukulele.
I was going to guess that. I probably would think about 90% of the banjo players I've interviewed started on ukulele, and they never get past 4 strings. I don't know what it is, except for Howard Alden, and he overdid it. He went all the way to 7, but we won't talk about him.
It's oh God, Howard. I saw Howard play when I was a kid. Well, it was funny, I would get to a certain level and I'd feel pretty good about myself. Then I saw Howard play.
We all have our Howards.
Yes, but I have several. Then I saw Brad Roth play. And then I saw Doug Maddox play. They're like the finest.
I agree.
And I would lean on my personality a little more. I finally got there, but I really am a late bloomer when it comes to being able to run with the big boys. I never stopped. I never stopped.
Do those guys ever give you crap about guitar tuning?
No, because I played the tenor banjo for a very long time. And I actually acquired a very special plectrum banjo on eBay, and I started doing the Chicago tuning as a result of spending so much money on this banjo. It was owned by the late, great Perry Botkin Sr., who had worked with everybody. And I liked the voicings. Well, there was also another reason too. Nobody would hire me as a guitar player, so I couldn't get the guitar experience. When Disney sent me to Japan, I vowed to only play with a Chicago tuning. So I really had a lot of practical time playing that tuning. Of course, I know the banjo isms, so I play the same licks and things that I learned on the banjo. So most of the time, people are surprised to realize is, oh, you've got a tune like a uke or. But I have gotten some, kind of a, oh, why do you do that? It's valid. It's just as I understand camps and I understand how it works. A lot of my horn players like the sound of those voicings a little more. They're closer to the plectrum banjo. And when I played the tenor banjo, it was more of a single note.
Sure. Well, that's what it's designed for.
Yes, to bring the mandolin community into the banjo world originally. But they're all they all have their applications. But that's how I really kind of got way more proficient on the guitar. And then I returned pretty much as a guitar player, which is strange because on the guitar, I also prefer the banjo material. I like, somebody stole my gal and, all that kind of stuff, so it's in me.
Sure. No problem. Did you ever, other than tuba, did you ever venture further into the wind world? Just asking for a friend.
I play the ocarina. I messed around with chromatic harmonica. The tuba was an outgrowth of the upright bass. I played more upright bass in Southern California than banjo. I only played the banjo at Shakey's. I was hired to play the upright bass with various groups in Southern California. That was my first professional gig at Magic Mountain. You remember, a banjo player named Jimmy Turner?
Sure.
I was in a youth group with him years ago.
I played a couple gigs with him down at the Ruben E. Lee. Magic
Mountain was Jimmy Turner, Jeff Walker, clarinet player. Remember Jeff?
Uh-huh.
Pat Galata, who grew up to be a black dog. Anthony Dixon, a fine banjo player, played the 5-string banjo. He ended up coming out to Florida with me and just cleaned up. Put everybody out of work because he could play 5-string and 4-string like Doug Maddox.
Yeah, well, we don't talk about those guys.
Now,
it's something you said earlier reminded me of a story Doug told about when he used to bring all of his banjos with him on stage, and because he did a routine about the plectrum being Eddie Peabody and the tenor being Harry Reeser and so along and so forth, until an old lady came up to the front of the stage. She said, "Well, son, aren't they just all banjos?" And that's the general public. They don't know if you have 5 strings, 4 strings, how long the neck is, and they don't care.
Yes, but it's hard to do the cross genre on the various instruments. To do an imitation 5-string on a 4-string or an imitation 4-string on a 5-string. It's tricky. I know some people that do that.
You've seen
well.
Doug's rig. Doug's got locking tuners, so
Yeah.
he can go from 5 to plectrum just with a crank. You know.
You want me to tell you how I actually met those guys?
Sure.
Well, I had an apartment. I was sharing an apartment with a friend in Huntington Beach. And I used to practice late at night on the beach, hacking away at the tenor banjo so I didn't disturb any of the people in the apartment. Walking home around 1 a.m., I hear this voice. The guy says, "Hey, kid." And I turn around. And it's an older guy in a yellow and white candy striped suit with a skimmer in the middle of Huntington Beach. And I could hear his like clacking his shoes. They were like tap shoes. He says, "Is that a banjo in there?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Do you know Cruising Down the River?" I said, yeah, that's one of the songs I learned to shake keys. He said, "Play it." So I took this banjo out and I started playing Cruising Down the River, and he started tap dancing and singing Cruising Down the River. You know, he was probably in his 60s or 70s. And a cop came. We were making a lot of noise. A cop came, laughed, told us to break it up. And he gave me a card. He said, "Call this card tomorrow morning. Kid, you're going to do this. Are you going to do it?" It's like an old vaudevillian, literally like the ghost of vaudeville in the streets of Huntington Beach. It was, they were looking for a banjo player ASAP in Florida. And for Disney. I had auditioned, I don't know how many times, for Sonny Anderson in California. Maybe I wasn't ready. This guy got me an audition with the Main Street Maniacs 2 days later. I was terrified. There they were. Doug, Dick, Charlie, and John Jorgensen. One of the greatest street acts of all time. They were funny. They each played, they were virtuosos in their own right. And I was there with them in that outfit. And they sent me to Florida like maybe 3 days later. The only thing in common with the Florida band and the Maniacs was the costume. Entirely different feel. That was more like a mustache, your father's mustache.
Who was in that group?
That group was my first Disney band leader out there was Lee Floyd. A virtuoso. Yeah, a virtuoso in his own right. A very, very entertainment savvy guy. He knew exactly how to put on a show. And if they weren't already standing in the street, he'd get a standing ovation every time. Pete Vrienitis, he's a tuba player. Pete Vrienitis, Ben Smith, trombone player. A washboard player named Steve Tirico. He was a neat washboard player. He ended up, Lee and Spoons, one of the things about Lee was a perfectionist. And Disney was a great showcase for his talent, but not the kind of place, if you're a band leader out there, it's like you're more of a, if you can find a band leader nowadays out there, you're more of a supervisor. And the guys in the band are their employees. Lee wanted the cream of what Lee's idea was. So, that goes on a lot at Disney. I understand Dick Hardwick told Sonny that he had to handpick his guys or he wouldn't do that gig. And that's one of the reasons I think that band was, correct me if I'm wrong, boy, those guys were great. Yeah, they were kind of an inspiration for my first wave of real serious things like Shreveport Stomps and things like
Sure.
that. Before that, it was Nobody's Sweetheart Now, which, you know, I'm still still playing. Oh my God.
Hey, you can't buck popularity.
No.
Pete, you know, it's really, since we stopped on that subject for just a minute here, it's interesting that a lot of musicians don't realize that things are popular for a reason. You know, the audience keeps wanting to hear Saints for a reason. And whatever that reason is what pays us.
I know a lot of real esoteric ragtime tunes that can still get a big rise out of an audience because it's really how you do it. But there are those tunes that survived the era were the cream, magical tunes. That's what it is. You know, they were the cream.
Bye Bye Blues, you know, for the banjo, those type of things. Is you hear a lot of actually the very best musicians get it. It's the guys that are almost the best musicians that don't get it sometimes. You know, oh, I don't want to play that again.
Yeah, you know, I've rediscovered songs like that because they've been played. I've heard like big band recordings of that tune that just really smoked. Yeah. It's actually, that was the first song I ever learned. Oh, wait a minute. The first song I ever learned was Both Sides Now on a terrible, an acoustic guitar that should have been a pedal steel or it should have been a lap steel. I still have it. And that's what turned me off to guitar in the beginning because it was such a hideous instrument. I thought that, you know, how can anybody play one? Well, I just had a crappy one. That's all, you know.
It had lap steel height on the strings. Huh?
Oh yeah, so you could only play it in first position. But it was a summer school course. We learned things like Both Sides Now and Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho, 2 chords, you know. And I as a kid, I was enamored of the Shakey's performers. I had to do it. And I ended up doing it.
Now, which Shakey's was it that you hung out at the most?
I got my first weekend job at the Shakey's in Pomona. And that was at the tail end of when Shakey's was actually an organization. They were more like, more becoming mom and pop places. And I remember that particular, you know, I was like, I love Freddie Morgan. The older guys used to tell me about Freddie Morgan. I never saw a film of him. I just hear all of these stories about this mythical guy, Freddie Morgan, with his face. You know, I saw this picture. And, you know, at Shakey's, we do these things where I lost my first Shakey's gig, actually ordering a pizza from a rival pizza delivery place, and I had it delivered to the bandstand.
That was a good move.
I thought that would be hilarious, you know. And then I still have the pink slip. It says that we're going to try a different form of entertainment. Of course, I went back the week after that and I saw, you know, same entertainment, different banjo player.
I think it's hilarious.
It was, you know, what did I know? There was another Shakey's. I went on to the other Shakey's and, you know, it was wonderful, wonderful era. And I had no idea that, you know, that was a training ground. Yeah,
I actually used to play washboard with, you probably know him, Bill Mitchell, piano player.
No, I don't know.
Oh, he's a Orange County ragtime piano player guy. Pretty well known in the area. Anyway, I played washboard with him at a Shakey's in, I guess it was in Buena Park.
My first Shakey's piano partner is a guy named Greg Gilbert. And he got me a gig at a place called Stuart Roth Antiques in Costa Mesa. Okay. And they had all these early dealer of oak when we, in the 70s when oak was really starting to catch on and get pricey. And we'd stroll around and he'd play all the pianos. The guy sold a lot of player pianos, and I'd follow along and set up and play the banjo. And I learned a lot from him. I actually hired him on the phone, and I took the bus to meet him. And he was shocked that I was a kid. I didn't have a driver's license yet. One of the reasons I didn't meet most of the California musicians that were really gigging at the time is I wasn't really giggable fully until I got a little more experience in Florida. So that's why I met most of my California heroes later on when I came back to play jazz festivals, things like Sacramento.
Yeah, but in Florida, you met people like, was it Bill Eddy? Bill and Eddie were there. Bill Dendle.
Bill Dendle had left by the time that Eddie was still there. He was great nightclub performer. I mean, a real I always thought he was the real deal. Made it past the nightclub era, but he could sing, he could make you cry with a vocal, he could make you laugh. Virtuoso.
Oh yeah.
Dave Tobiasen
Sure.
was his piano player. I worked with Dave Tobiasen, and later on I saw him in Atlantic City when I worked up there at the Showboat Casino. Oh, Rick Fay. Do you remember
Rick?
Rick?
Oh God, yes.
He
was lovely man.
Yeah, I met him in Florida. It was Rick Fay.
You had Jackie Kuhn down there too.
Actually, I met him later on in California. He was gone by then. I caught where I was born probably at the tail end of the baby boom. I missed a lot of it, or I was just getting to the end.
I mean, through the Florida Park, you had Bill Allred and Jim Mayhack. And all those guys went through there. Ed Metz.
Yes. Ed Metz. If you watch any Ed Metz YouTube that Ed Metz is participating in, and you start in the beginning and you scrub way to the end, same tempo.
Oh yeah. I just interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. Great player. I had a chance.
I worked. Bill Allred got me on so many early gigs that I probably shouldn't have been on. Early, like big band style gigs. There were still a lot of dance type of gigs in the area, and of course I worked at Rosie's, and Jim Mayhack was a landlord of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jim and Wendy and all his dogs. Sure.
I know Jim and Wendy well.
Yeah. Another guy, Jim made. When he left the Rose, I was in several incarnations of the Rosie's band. And when he left to move out to California, there was a certain beauty that went with him because he could double on trombone, fill out the horn section like a mini big band, play beautiful, solid piano. You don't even realize what a great tuba player he was. He had a big, beautiful sound. I guess he played with Turk Murphy.
Yeah.
I hate to leave anybody out because I met when Disney in their tail end of the heyday in Florida, so many people were there.
Oh God, yeah. Dave Gannett.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I mean, all the dogs, of course.
Yeah. Yes.
In fact, today I'm going to be later today. I'm going to be interviewing Brian Simpson, the drummer.
Oh, I've never met him.
Yeah, he was the drummer with I'm sorry, he was the drummer with Wood Nickel. I got that confused. Anyway,
I didn't realize that I was creating in a vacuum. I didn't realize how many of us there are out there. Isn't that odd?
It's cool. I was telling you before we started the interview about some of the strange side effects this show has had. And a lot of it is just reconnecting people with each other. They see an interview and somebody mentions somebody else's names, and all of a sudden telephones start ringing and old friendships are rekindled. And that's something I'm really proud of with this.
Well, when I saw it, I thought it was a great idea. And I only knew you through Patrick Deneen. Well, I heard your name in California.
Well,
you were one of the...
actually, when Once Upon a Time, the Southern Comfort Band, in I think around 1980, we came through Florida with Dan Barrett and Brian Shaw. And we went through Rosie's. I was the tuba player on that band.
I see that Florida. I got to Florida at the December of '81, but okay. I knew of the Southern Comfort Band. Howard was in that band, wasn't
yes.
he? Yes. Oh, I saw them once at a probably a later incarnation in Sacramento, and it was like a full-blown show.
Yeah,
dialogue, costuming. It was really, really good. Oh, they played Herbert L. Clark kind of stuff.
Oh no, you're thinking about the Jack Daniels band.
Oh, you're right. I am. You're
That's
right.
Okay.
I am, but I knew that Howard. It was something that would get you there in a hurry.
Yeah. The Southern Comfort. We're the guys who killed Janis Joplin. So anyway. But yeah, so many friends in common. But I sort of got linked up with those guys later than most. I didn't meet all those guys till the 80s. So.
Oh yeah. That's when I actually believe I started my professional career right around 1980. So you can imagine all the wonderful people I missed.
Yeah, well, you and me both. Now, let's talk a little bit about Branson.
Okay.
And Pat, were you part of that Ragtime Little show?
Yes, I was.
The Banjo?
Yes, I was. The universe was trying to throw me together with my wife, Teresa, and I didn't know it because she was Ragtime Lil.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, she was Ragtime Lil. And that show was an interesting adventure. The band was wonderful. The personnel was incredible. Management had no idea how to promote it or what to do with it. And that's what kind of kept all the Branson theaters and the stars in Branson wanted that little band, that little show to succeed. Jim Stafford would come in and say, "This is great. There's nothing like it. But you got to do this and this and this and this and this." And the guys putting on the show wouldn't hear me. Once the stage manager turned away Henry Cuesta, who wanted to sit in, brought his clarinet, and he says to Henry Cuesta, "I'm sorry, but we have a very strict no sit-in policy here at the theater." And that was the beginning of the end because, Cuesta, the Welk Theater was another theater. They wanted to take that little show under its wing because that's how it used to work. One theater brings another. Anyway, Patrick Deneen and we played nonstop. Now, Mike Morois was in that band. You know Mike?
Sure. Wasn't Mark Allen Jones in there too somewhere?
Before my time.
Okay.
But yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah, I know Mike Murray.
Mark was in that group. He had left and Paul Acero did it for a little while.
The piano player, yes.
Yes.
I did Pat's quartet album with him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Paul is something. I met Terry Waldo there. He did that. I forget the piano player who was there, but he was one of the reasons that Stafford said, you got to tell him not to. He would say some kind of spiel about a naked lady on the wall. There's a painting and we raise our glasses to her. And Stafford used to always say, look, it's Branson. You can take him to the bathroom, but you can't take him to the bedroom. I was like, I can't tell anybody, nobody listens. No one will listen to the performers. If you can imagine that, I kind of took up ventriloquism as a result of that show. I had a ventriloquist doll, like most guys might have one or two ventriloquist dolls hanging out in their man cave. Okay, banjo. Okay, Patrick Deneen comes out and plays this phenomenal banjo solo. And then I come out and I follow that. Well, that wasn't going to happen. First of all, Patrick is a dynamic player. And I was pretty good, but Patrick can really charm a crowd. However, I asked him, could I do ventriloquism? Could I do, because it's different, something other,
right.
And I'm not going to go on after Patrick. Plus,
your own niche, sure.
21, yeah, it just wasn't going to happen. A bad vaudeville move. So we started using the puppet, and it started getting laughs. And I remember Banjo Mania came through there, and Westy was in that group.
Yeah. I was in it before Westy.
Yes, that's right.
Westy's another phenomenon.
Doug Maddox saw the ventriloquism act. He says, "You do that? You're still playing banjo?" It's like Doug always had a mind for the show, but I wasn't that good. I could get laughs, but I wasn't. Lip control didn't mean much to me. It was all about the material. So there, Branson. I learned a lot about, you could see Andy Williams. Well, I moved out to Branson to work for John Davidson.
I saw that in your bio. Just a quick aside. I actually went to high school with Rhonda, with his wife.
That's what Patrick used to tell me.
Yeah, she was a flute player in the band at my high school.
I knew Rhonda. They asked me, John got another gig and he left Branson in a hurry. And he asked me to house sit for him. So I house sat and took care of their animals while I did the Ragtime Lil show. And I didn't pay any rent. I just took care of the property. And for a short period of time, I worked both shows. Davidson had a morning show. I was on guitar and banjo. He actually played a little banjo, and he wasn't bad. A good nuts and bolts banjo player for a guy like John Davidson. He had musical instinct, more so than an actor would. And yeah. I think if he had pursued that, he probably would have done quite well with it. But a showman first and foremost.
Yeah. John does incredible vocal chops.
He had this part of his show that I thought was absolutely brilliant. He would go out in the audience and he'd say, can you remember what year you first fell in love? And, somebody would say, oh, I first met my wife in 1955. And he'd go into this routine about 1955. And we had this fake book that was from like 1929 to 1975. Every page was a medley, an abridged medley from all the hit tunes from, say,
brilliant
55.
Idea.
It was brilliant. And he had that book memorized. And when somebody would be married, let's say, recently in the 80s, he would just get out of it by saying, oh, recycling. And then he'd go on to the next. But that was my favorite part of the show because it was more of a gig. It was like we'll play through some songs. you know. But the whole thing was wild, and he'd try anything. He'd spend. There was some kind of trampoline thing where he wanted to fall off the stage, jump back on the trampoline, and get up to the other side. And in theory it would work, but once he started trying it, it was like, no, I'm not going to do this. So there was a lot of moments like that. You know, he was always coming up with something kind of wacky. But
I know that he tried to. He may still be doing it, but they used to run a vocal school out of Catalina.
Yeah, no, that was long gone by the time he did that.
Now, I also see that you spent some time with Leon Redbone.
I did a handful of gigs. That guy he defies categorization. It was like I looked out into the audience, and it was like older gentlemen and biker chicks. It was an unusual demographic, and I'd never seen anybody move so slow and get so many laughs. And he really didn't say anything. He just had this. It was a genius at presentation. That was it. He knew how to present the entire image. And I played once with him on guitar. He liked the mandolin, and the mandolin stayed out of the way, because it's hard to play guitar with a guy like that, because he's kind of did his own thing.
Oh, yeah. He would ignore bar lines and stretch phrases. And
yeah. So it was much easier to play over him than actually try to be in. It's easier to be the frosting than to be the cake, because it was hard time following it, because I'm a chunk, and that didn't work with him. But that was a magical time. I'd never seen anything like it before or since.
So are you saying that his onstage persona was very different from who he was?
I would say so. I don't want to break any hearts, but yeah, he was. He sounded highly intelligent and kind of a fast talker. Oh yeah. But he got into the better part of a Jägermeister bottle before he started. I used to drink a lot. I don't drink anymore. And I went through a phase where I really had a hard time knowing who I was. You know, it's like nothing was funny, because everything is funny when you got a buzz on. Everything's funny. Everybody's right. Funny. Everything's great. Took me a little, and he may have had a little bit of that. Like there are some guys like Jackie Gleason, I understand, and W.C. Fields, they had to get the glow on to find it. And when they did, they were unstoppable. And I don't know if Leon was like that, but I did notice that he it took him a little time, and then when he was there, wow,
interesting.
Oh yeah.
I have a drummer friend of mine who actually spent some time on the road with Tiny Tim. And yes. that's a kind of a similar story about
Tiny Tim. I didn't realize how much of a musicologist he was until I actually started, I got a little older, you revisit somebody and you go, that Tiny Tim falsetto, he tried for a long time singing in his natural voice, which he did have a natural, he had a man voice, but he couldn't get arrested doing that.
Yeah. And the falsetto thing is actually accurate to the time, to the 1920s, and there was a falsetto style.
And well, and I also wonder how much of that was those voices recorded easier with the acoustic recording.
Right.
As far as, you know, certain things like back in the silent era, people with really light eyes, their eyes wouldn't show up on camera until they changed the type of lighting. And, you know, so it's like only the certain types. I think Bing Crosby changed all of that. He was like one of the early baritone. You know, Nick Lucas was he was a high tenor. And right. Cliff Edwards was my favorite 20 singer. Cliff Edwards, my God. Voice of Jiminy Cricket.
Yep. I agree. Let's move on into Wally's Wharf's Warehouse.
Wally's Warehouse Waits. I missed that group. That was probably one of the finest show bands, intentionally and unintentionally, that I was ever in. And I think they disintegrated re-entering the atmosphere. Either that or some of the guys retired. Dave Tatro, who was the leader of Wally's, intentionally funny. He could play jazz. Audiences loved him. Very popular. Randy Morris,
sure,
who was one of my early Disney mentors. He was in that band. Oh, well, when I got in the band, it was a transitional band. Dave Bennett was still in it. Marvelous clarinet prodigy. Some of the older guard was leaving, and Dave was bringing in new. I think they started as a new Reformation band.
Okay.
Bob Braga was in it, and Randy was in it for a long time. Dick Maley played drums. Before that, I forget the gentleman that played drums before Dick, but he was a new Reformation guy. Cody Henry, trombone player out of St. Louis. I got my wife on board, and that's how she was kind of introduced to the festival crowd. And instant, a word about her. When I was working in Atlantic City, I had the task of setting up her microphone once, many times. I'd set her microphone up, and then, you know, she'd sing the ballad or whatever it was. Well, this time I thought I'd like play a little joke on her. And I had the microphone was loose. So when she got right up to the microphone, it fell down to her waist. I felt a hate ray from the audience. And that was kind of odd, because I didn't realize it's like she had a very interesting relationship with the audience. Now, not everybody is capable of doing that. You know, we'll play gigs where people don't know her, people have never seen her. She has a likability. I don't possess that likability. I earn it. She seems to have it from Jump Street. But anyway, that's what happened with the festivals. You know, people just they loved her, and she's very good. You know, you'll get to meet her, and very, very humble person.
Well, I'll fix that. I mean,
yes, yeah, you got to draw it out of her. It's in there.
Patrick did tell me that she was the sane one of the two of you.
The sane one?
Hmm.
Yeah, we trade off. We really do. We really do. I surprise her, she surprises me.
Well, for the audience that's watching, I am going to be interviewing Paul's wife, Teresa Scavarda here, and you'll see that interview probably in 3 weeks from now, when you're watching this. So just there's more to come, and that's why I'm not delving too much into Bakey.
I actually wanted. I was wondering if you would interview us together, but this is probably best.
Well, the reason I do it separately is everybody has such strong back histories. I tried doing Bill Allred and his son John together.
Oh.
And I know John really well, and I knew Bill really well, but there just wasn't enough time within an hour format or hour-ish format to really get into it. And then when they started crossing over, then they want to go back and forth with stories. It's just not quite as clear of a.
John may not even remember this, but when I first started dragging my guitar onto gigs, when I was doing they do a Dixie show, and then we do the dance band. Once, John actually helped me tune my guitar. He has ears, just I don't have ears like John. You don't have to know. And he also plays tuba.
Oh no, yeah. John is now a big deal in the world.
Oh yeah, I know that. He always was above and beyond.
Yeah,
even when I first met him.
He credits me with giving him his very first studio gig. That's okay. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Wow.
I've just been around too long.
I missed so many of my heroes. I used to watch them at Disney. I used to watch them perform. When I also didn't realize that Disneyland, they had, I don't know if it was a quality control or if it was tougher to get the gig there or if it was a smaller club. It seemed like the groups at Disneyland were really the jazz minors.
Sure.
World class.
Oh yeah. I know all those guys very, very well. Knott's Berry Farm with that.
You're cutting out just a little.
That's okay. It's about time for me to have to wrap this up.
Wow, that was quick.
Yeah, we've actually. I know it gets to be so much fun. Bill Dendel ended up doing 2 of these, 2 1-hour interviews, and so did drummer Matt Johnson.
Bill Dendel is not only a fine musician, he is such an erudite guy because he continuously corrects my my Facebook grammar, which is all right because I'm going to wind up Jack Parr or something. I don't know.
We were on an airplane once together, and on a certain small 16-seater airplane, I think it was a Fokker. Anyway, on the back of the seat, it said seat cushions may be used for flotation devices. He went off on the stewardess because anyway.
And that's why we celebrate him.
Yes. Oh, very much so. And besides that, he's got a wicked sense of humor.
Oh,
well, listen, sir, I will say hello to the wife for you when I interview her.
All right.
We'll get further into, if she feels uncomfortable doing this solo and she wants to bring you on to reinforce something or another, that would be fine too. But we'll be seeing you guys again here soon.
Well,
so thanks once
Dan.
again, Paul. And I'll tell Pat you weren't as bad as he said.
Pat's one of my heroes.
You take care now.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Trad Jazz Today. Dan posts new interviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure to check out the archive of past shows, and please give us a thumbs up when you subscribe to the channel. Bye.